Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome.
Let's sing together to get ourselves a little bit warmed up and ready. Hava Nashira, Hava Nashira, Hava Nashira. Let us sing. Let's do it again. Hava Nashira, Hava Nashira, Hava Nashira. Let us sing. We repeat. Come, let us sing.
Let us sing.
Come, let us sing. Come, let us sing. Hava Nashira. Come, let us sing. Come, let us sing. Come, let us sing. Hava Nashira. Hava Nashira. Hava Nashira. Hava Nashira. Let us sing. Hava Nashira. Hava Nashira. Hava Nashira. Let us sing. Come, let us sing. Come, let us sing. Come, let us sing. Hava Nashira. Come, let us sing. Come, let us sing. Come, let us sing. Hava Nashira. Hava Nashira. Hava Nashira. Hava Nashira. Let us sing. Hava Nashira. Hava Nashira. Hava Nashira. Let us sing.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So nice to be here praying with you all this morning. We have had so many B'nai Mitzvah this morning. This is only my third time in the community service since we went back in person.
It's so true.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
I'm so happy to be here. Quick update, because I know that we didn't have time to send it out. Our Reopen Task Force has asked that we all wear masks inside at any time that we are inside. I know that that's a change from our previous policy, but I'm sure that you guys are not surprised to hear that. So we are grateful for your compliance and agreement and keeping everybody safe in here with masks on. In a minute, I'm going to go put on a different one because I cannot breathe. So I will scoot out for a second when we get into our prayers. Let's see, what else? I think if you, we have screens. If you want a Tanakh, they are in the back for when we get to Torah reading. I'm Rabbi Hyatt, in case we don't know you. This is Cantor Sachs, and we are looking forward to praying with you this morning. So let's begin with a big, deep breath. Yeah. I enter this sacred space to voice the longings of my heart in prayer. In sacred company, I offer my love to the Holy One. I devote myself this morning to psalm and song, study and prayer. May my heart be lifted, may my thoughts be deepened, and may my soul, like the eagle, soar. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
tefilati lecha, Adonai et rotzon, Elohim verov chastecha, Elohim verov chastecha, aneni be'emet yishecha, ma tovu, ma tovu, alecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael, ma tovu, ma tovu, alecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael, mishkenotecha Yisrael.
Turns out you need different amounts of air to talk than you do to sing.
This is a true story.
I learned something today. Let's read responsively. For the blessings in our lives, the blessings of our lives, and the blessings of the people who are part of our lives, we give thanks. These gifts heal. Silence, stillness, enthusiasm, and joyful noise, awareness, insight, energy, and resources, the gifts of parents and children, of students and teachers. Together, these blessings nurture joy, gratitude, freedom, and bravery, trust, strength, humor, and sweetness, the blessings of honesty and kindness, of faith and love. For the gifts and blessings of our lives, we sing and dance, we shout and laugh, and we pledge our lives in service to each other, in celebration, in wonder, and in awe. Praised are you, God our Maker, source of gifts and blessings.
Speaking of breath, making sure we're okay? We're good. Okay. We turn to this prayer that celebrates the connection between our breath and our souls. That when you breathe in and you feel that breath fill your lungs, it is as if you are filling yourself with the presence of God that has originally created us. And so we say, Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehora hi. Given the mind the ability to distinguish day from night.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who opens the blind.
Amen.
Together, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who frees the captive.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who lifts up the fallen. Shut
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who crowns Israel with splendor. Elohai, Elohai, neshama, 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 shenatata li, shenatata li, tehorai, tehorai. And now at this moment, we're going to look within and take a second to imagine what are our personal blessings in our lives that we'd like to share with our community. Those two tensions are going to become very important later. How are we as individuals feeling blessed within our community today? Share your personal blessings. Amen. Amen. So with these blessings in our minds and in our hearts, we take in one more deep breath in. And together we say, Amen. Elohai, Elohai, neshama, neshama, shenatata bi, shenatata bi, tehorai, tehorai. Elohai, Elohai.
And so we have said thank you for our physical and our spiritual selves, and now we thank God for our intellectual selves, and we join together in the words of blessing over the study of Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to engage with words of Torah. Here we go. Truth, teaching 2. For those of you that are new to us, we are working our way very slowly and methodically through this everyday holy day, 365 days of teachings and practices from the Jewish tradition of Musar, written by Alan Marinis, and we got to be getting through this. I mean, we're close, okay. And we are in the week of truth, teaching 2. Does somebody feel comfortable to read this out loud? Lori.
Even after the desires of one's heart have persuaded him to accept the false way as true, he still knows in his heart of hearts that the true path is truer than the other one. Every human being thus has the faculty of determining in his own heart where the real truth lies.
Well, what do you think? That even when you think something is true, if it's not, you know. That somewhere deep down inside, you really know. What do you think? Yeah, Claudia?
I think that's a continuation of Torah study. False gods, not false gods.
Yeah. In Torah study, we talked about a section of this text that talks about not following false prophets and about what makes a false prophet and how we know, more than what makes a false prophet, how do we know if somebody's a true prophet, and what does it mean to listen and to pay attention and to learn new things and to use discretion. So certainly this fits in really well with that. Yeah, Lori?
This is more of a focus on, rather than the external false prophet, more an internal focus. Like, we have layers of ego and all the things that we are striving after and think we need and want, and that may not be what is true. And deep down, if we can separate ourselves from all of those idols, we will find the truth, and we may know it's not the truth.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Much better than what was written.
Well, I read a business, I get this email that has like business research, contemporary business research. And they were talking about a philosophy called, I think it's escalating commitment is what they call it. And it's what happens, and I identify with this, you tell me if it feels relevant to you, either in business or not. If you make a wrong choice, you sometimes escalate your commitment to it being the right choice because you don't want to admit that it was the wrong choice. And so we spend a whole lot of time trying to prove to ourselves and others that in fact it was not a wrong choice, it was a right choice. And then it becomes even harder to extract ourselves from what was wrong so that we can find what was right, which is fascinating that somebody put a label on that, because I totally feel that. I've seen that in my own life, right? So the idea, and it's true, that escalating commitment, it's not that I was sitting there having conversations with myself saying, okay, I know that this was the wrong choice, but I want to make sure that I want to try and prove or make it the right choice. It was that I really was trying to convince myself that it was right. Fascinating. What else? What else does this make you think?
I think you can make the wrong choice or the truth and false. I mean, there's just opportunities to see what is wrong about this choice and what is true about this choice. What is the truth? I mean, because there's so much information coming down and you're just saying, how can I make it work to be true?
Yeah.
So maybe there's little bits and pieces of it is true, but some of it's just mostly, it's just too far-fetched.
Yeah.
Reaching information. So I think it's an opportunity.
Certainly, and that it's not a 1 minute thing, right? Where there's something false and you have to know if it's true. It's usually ongoing, and there's, right, situations change and evolve. Certainly. I feel, yeah, Claudia.
Do you think everyone knows in her heart that what's true and what's not?
Do you?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Why not?
Because I know some people who have a less generous heart, and I don't think they know the difference.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to think about what does it mean to know, right? To even when you believe and you articulate and you live a certain way, the question of whether you down deep know, even if you don't think about it, even if it's not your practice or in your capacity really to think about it, you would have to really change your personality to get there, but somewhere you know. Yeah.
It's like what happens to you and I try to fight my gut feeling.
Yeah.
Like everything about a decision that I make that isn't based on my gut, it just seems to turn out wrong. Or it's like the commitment concept that we were talking about earlier. It's like, okay, well, I made this bad choice based on, a feeling that I should be trusting.
Yeah.
Or the absence of it, and then I shoot myself in the foot.
Totally. I think the important piece of this is that it is ongoing, is that it's not stagnant. Information is not stagnant. Our understanding of information is not stagnant. And we say all the time, we make the best decisions we can in the moment with the information that we have. And that helps us, I think, to have compassion to ourselves when we haven't made the right choice or when we have engaged in something that is not perhaps the truth of truths. We made the best decision we could with the information we had at that moment. And that also gives us the capacity and the blessing and the permission to say, now I have different information and perhaps I need to make a different choice. And that is maybe how we interrupt that escalating commitment pattern, right? To say, now I have new information. And so then you're not saying, okay, I made a wrong choice, because that's a hard thing to wrap your head around. But perhaps today, with the information that I have, I could make a different choice, and we know in our heart of hearts that sometimes there is a thing that is truer, and we don't always discover it when we might have, right? When it would have been convenient to discover it. But when we discover it, then that's the moment of truth, right? Of what you do and how you show up and what your character tells you to do when you actually do investigate and know that you know a truth that is different. Yeah.
Sometimes we have to take the path that isn't true in order to get to the path that is true. Higher level, make a decision at lower level, knowing that that decision will then make a decision that is the true path. Sometimes we have to do that.
Yeah.
Suffer a little bit before you get to the next level.
Yeah.
Making this really personal, but having just spent a long time in Kansas where I don't feel like we
Right.
belong, and then moving here definitely feels kind of like that, moving to a truer path. So.
Yes. Welcome. So I think that is, I certainly can see where that is a sort of professional, right, ascendancy or something like that. Yeah, it's an interesting concept of being able to see the long game, right? Because that then requires you to have that kind of vision for life and for the big picture. And some of us are better at that than others. I tend to be bad at that. So with that, I think our lesson that we're taking from this today is to check in, perhaps, with your heart of hearts on a regular basis and find out whether there is more truth to be known and truth to be found. And this is not written. Rabbi Eliyahu Dessler did not say this, but I would add to his, if he would not mind an amendment, that part of this truth is to be kind to ourselves when we discover more truth, to have compassion for ourselves so that we can do what feels right and do what feels good and be true to our truth. So let's say together our phrase and our practice. And our phrase is, truth stands forever, falsehood has no legs. And our practice, check your words before you speak to ensure that they are true. Interesting things to sit with.
One saying that came into my mind, to thy own self be true.
Absolutely.
That is where the searching comes. Like you say, I may think it's true, and I have to think about it and really think about, is it really true?
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of being honest with ourselves, which is very important.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's read together our closing prayer for the study of Torah. O Adonai, our God, let the words of Torah be sweet in our mouths and the mouths of your people Israel, so that we, our descendants, and the descendants of all your people Israel may know you by studying your Torah for its own sake. Baruch atah Adonai, hamlamed Torah le'amo Yisrael. Blessed are you, Adonai, who teaches Torah to your people, Israel.
And so we come to the end of our opening section on gratitude. Having given thanks for our physical selves, for our spiritual selves, and for our intellectual selves, we turn to Psalm 150 and take all of that gratitude into one joyous word. Hallelujah. Baruch.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uvorei choshech, oseh shalom uvorei et hakol. You are praised, who rolls out the rough, raw clay of the universe into delicate vessels of light, and from nothing at all we could perceive in a world that has turned old a shimmering new creation, right before our eyes, made this moment just for us. How much of life reveals your presence? How much Torah unfolds from each new flower, from each new wave that breaks upon the sea? You are praised, who forms from the clay that cloaks our lives the delicate vessels which contain our light. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMeorot. Praised are you, Adonai, creator of all heavenly lights. Let's read together. Love your neighbor as yourself, you said, and light blinded, we saw that inner and outer worlds are one, as you are one. You spoke and we wrote, we reached for you down the centuries, your light moving before us as we climbed, fell back, and climbed again, your Sinai of life. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher ba'amo Yisrael be'ahava. Praised be you, Adonai, who chooses your people Israel in love.
Hear, O Israel, Adonai, our God is one. Hear, our God is one. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. You may be seated. Let's chant Ve'ahavta together. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha Veshinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Amen.
Who is like you, God of mystery and majesty, distant and present, thundering and quiet, the beginning and the end, the atom and the cosmos, the darkness and the light together, the one and the all, pillar and foundation, artist of sea and sky, author of the miraculous and the mundane, source of life, blessing and sustaining creation. Who is like you, glorious in holiness, to whom we praise, to whom we give thanks? The God who redeemed us from Egypt, the God who parted the sea, the God to whom Miriam and Moses led us in song.
No גאולים ושמך שפת הים יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ויאמרו אדוני אלוהינו לעולם עד. Who is like you? Who is like you? Who is like you?
Tzur Yisrael, Rock of Israel, rise in support of Israel and redeem Judah and Israel as you promised. Our Redeemer, Adonai Tzvaot, is your name. Blessed are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. God, you are as near as the very air we breathe, yet farther than the farthermost star. We yearn to reach you. We seek the light and warmth of your presence. Though we say you are near, we are lonely and alone. Oh, let our desire be so strong that it will tear the veil that keeps you from our sight. Let your light release our darkness and reveal the glory and joy of your presence. As the fish gives himself to the sea, as the bird gives herself to the air, so may we give ourselves to you.
We rise as we are able for tefillah. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor Hanurah El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim Vekoneh Hakol Vezocher Chasdei Avot Ve'imahot Umevi Geula Livnei Bneihem Leman Shemo Be'ava Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Be'ezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Ata, Rav Lehoshia, Morid HaTal, Mechakel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofeh Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Baal Gevurot, Umido Meloch, Melech Meimir, Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'emanata l'chayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, Keshem shemakdishim oto b'shnei marom, kakatuv al yad nevi'echa, b'kara ze'el zeh be'amar, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Meloch haaretz, Kevodo, Adir, Adirenu Adonai, Adonenu Adir, Shimcha bechol haaretz, Baruch Kevod Adonai, Echad hu Eloheinu, hu Avinu Malkeinu, hu Moshiach Elu Yashmienu, Berachamav Le'enei kol chai. Ani Adonai Elohecha, Yimloch Adonai le'olam, Elohayich Tzion, Ledor vador, Hallelujah. Ledor vador, Ledor vador, Ledor vador, nagid lecha. Ledor vador, Ledor vador, Ledor vador, nagid lecha. Ulenetzach netzachim, kedushatcha naqdish, kedushatcha naqdish. V'shivchacha Eloheinu yibinu lo yamush, le'olam, le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el ha'kadosh.
We take a moment now for the words we have not yet said, for our own silent prayers. You may stand or sit, whatever feels comfortable, and we come back together in a moment.
So, as many of you may have noticed, some of the melodies that we have been using today are a little bit new and a little bit old. As we enter into Rosh Chodesh Elul, which is tomorrow night, we bring in our songs of the season as we prepare for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur in this month that leads up to these high holy days. We are expected, asked to turn inward and prepare with Cheshbon HaNefesh, this accounting of our soul, in recognition that it takes more than just one day or even 10 days to really reckon with a year and what does it mean. And so we use our music to help us remind ourselves that this moment, this expectation is coming. And yet, there are also melodies and texts that are particular to just Elul, that do not come again on our high holy days, especially here at Temple. And so, for this month, we are going to turn towards Psalm 27, which is the psalm for the season of the days of awe that we say every day in the month of Elul. And in that psalm, there is a text that says, Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai ota avakesh. There is but one thing I ask, and that is to sit in the presence of God. As we engage in this process, as we turn toward ourselves and toward each other in reconciliation, in a move toward repentance, we ask God to sit with us, near us, around us. And so we turn to Psalm 27, Achat Sha'alti.
with that, we arrive at our Torah service. Please rise as you are able as we take the Torah from the Ark.
Shabbat Shalom, you may be seated. Rabbi Hyatt was just checking where we are in the Torah. You know, one of the fun games we play at Temple Emanuel is that we are always both in the moment and anywhere else but this moment, because on Wednesdays we bring all our upcoming B'nai Mitzvah students into this space and they get to practice from the Torah scroll, which is wonderful and great and very affirming, but it means that when you open a Torah, you're never quite sure what week you're in, because it depends on who was here last. Thankfully, our Torah seems to know exactly where it needs to be right now, which is wonderful. But before we read, just a few more words of teaching about this Parsha, Parashat R'eih. So, Parashat R'eih always coincides with Rosh Chodesh Elul. We are in this moment in our liturgical cycle where the Parshiot in Deuteronomy are always synced with a particular moment as we move toward our high holy days. And so as we look into these texts, it is very difficult not to put that gloss on top of what is happening in our Torah portion, because our Torah is also moving toward. Our Israelites in the Torah are moving toward going to the land of Israel. And so when we look into Parashat R'eih, we see people preparing for lots of things. So one of the things that we see when we look at this context of preparing in Parashat R'eih is this tension between the individual and the collective. Those of you who have heard me drosh before know that I really like dichotomy. I'm very into that. I think I've also said I had a teacher when I was in college who would start almost every Divrei Torah by saying, I have 3 Divrei Torah that are really one. And so I like 2 that are one. I'm more of a dualist than I am a Trinitarian, but that's okay. So that's fine. Here we go. So let's take a look at this dichotomy. Where does it happen? What does it mean for us? Well, immediately, almost in Parashat R'eih, I'm actually going to read this part in just a moment, we have this verse where Moses and God are instructing the Israelites on how they are going to bring their sacrifices when they enter the land of Israel. And God and Moses say to the Israelites, you shall not act at all as we now act here at this moment in the desert, where each person does as he wants. That's the sentence. We're not going to do that, God and Moses say. And about 4 chapters later, they say, you also hear a slightly different version that is a little bit difficult, because while on the one hand we have now heard, well, we can't just do what we want. 4 chapters later, we also hear, you shall all come before God. You shall not appear before God empty-handed, but each with his own gift according to the blessing that the eternal your God has bestowed upon you. So that's pretty tricky. We're not supposed to do just exactly as we want, but we are supposed to personalize. That is a really difficult balance. When are we buying into the collective and everyone is doing exactly as they are supposed to together? And when are we being our own selves? What is the tension and where is the line between those two things? Now, the first phrase that we use, you shall not act at all as we act here now, each householder as he pleases, is very odd. It is an idiom in Hebrew. It is not a direct translation of what the Hebrew says. What the Hebrew actually says is ish kol hayashar be'enav, which if I had to translate that literally, I would say something like every person walks in the way that he thinks is straight. Now, as a New Yorker, I have to tell you that that is infuriating to me, right? One of the things that you learn when you grow up on the streets of Manhattan is how you're supposed to walk, which side of the street you're supposed to walk on, which side of the sidewalk, which piece of the sidewalk you're supposed to walk on so you don't fall into the basement grocery things that they all have there. There are a lot of rules about how you are supposed to walk. And so this image of every person walking in the way that they themselves think is straight is very petrifying to me. But think of that image, right? Like that's such an evocative image of what does it mean to have chaos and anarchy and everyone doing what they want to do and not thinking about the impact that has on everybody else. And that's the feeling that we get from this phrase. It actually happens several more times in the book of Judges. And in the book of Judges, that phrase is particularly linked to actual anarchy. Not just metaphor, not anarchy around sacrifices, but actual uprising and insurrection against the organized community. So you're getting this sense right away that this, like many things in the Torah, this phrase has a little bit more of a deep meaning than just, you can't just do what you want. There has to be a system. This points to something slightly more nefarious, almost as if Moses and God are pushing against a kind of narcissism, where it is only about how you, individual you, want to be straight, and not what that means for what you are doing to anybody else. Now that makes sense in the context of Deuteronomy that we're trying to centralize a little bit. That's in fact the entirety of the project of Deuteronomy, is that we're trying to move from chaos of the wandering to a more centralized people, right? From slaves who had no autonomy and no authority and no self-actualization to wanderers who are figuring it out. We spent a lot of time figuring it out, and we did not always guess right in the desert. We had a lot of trial and error situations. We complained a lot. God got mad a lot. We almost were destroyed a lot. And now we're moving toward how are we going to pull it all together? So when we get to the sacrifices, what could that mean? If we're not supposed to do what we want, if we're trying to move towards centralization, how come it's not just everyone bring this and that's the only option? Well, when you look at some of the commentary on that piece, what it actually says is each person according to their own blessings. Look at what you have in your life and recognize that it is more possible for some to bring one set of things than others. Because sacrifice, ironically, in this context, should not be a burden. Think about that for a second. Sacrifice should not be a burden. And I know that in the Torah, that's literal, right? A goat, a sheep, a pigeon, a dove. But when we think about what that means for ourselves, that sacrifice for the benefit of how you individualize within the context of your community should not feel onerous. It is a task that we undertake with pleasure. Is a concept that I think we are going to be continuing to wrestle with for quite some time. The Israelites are trying to balance themselves as a people. When are they and when are they each one? Now, I think at this minute in time, we too are trying to figure this out. You could look around at what is happening in the world, and particularly with our pandemic right now, and see a lot of chaos and a lot of anarchy. And some of that cannot be helped. We're still figuring it out. We don't have all of the answers. And a lot of the time, we are being asked to make individual choices within many collectives about how we want to keep ourselves safe and keep ourselves healthy and keep our families safe and healthy. And it's really hard to make those choices and potentially to have to make different choices in different collectives. We are balancing our individual needs with the needs of the community constantly. And we have seen, unfortunately, the other side of what some of this means. And that is why this moment feels different than perhaps a year and a half ago. Because we have some trepidation about what certain choices might lead toward. We may have embraced the freedom of the individuality that virtual life has given us. How awesome is it that you can go hiking and go to Shabbat services at the same time? It's fantastic. And if any of you are doing that right now, amazing, great job. It is. It's a beautiful and wonderful thing that we have virtual access, that we can be Emanuel everywhere if we want to. And yet, in recent months, we also have recognized what it has felt like to come back together and what the power of that community actually is. We knew it intellectually when it was missing, and then we felt it again, and it makes it that much harder to leave it one more time. The individual and the collective. The importance of thinking about sacrifice for community consistency. These things that are going to be in tension for a while. And we are going to have to continue to strive to find the balance. And every week might be a different balance. But in this concept of everyone doing everything exactly the same together versus individuals figuring it out for yourselves, it is our responsibility, according to our Torah, to find that balance. So the last thing I will say is the very beginning of our Torah portion says, R'eih, look out. Look out, and you will see in front of you what is blessing and what is curse. That has been a theme for today. But the challenge is, Ish Kol hayashar be'enav. If you are only using your own eyes to look at your own straight path, what will you possibly see? Not the needs of the entire collective, only the needs of the individual. And so we have to find the middle and the balance. Shabbat Shalom. And now we're going to read the Torah.
Yes. Let us.
Yeah.
Do you want to make sure it's where you
Yes, I do.
want it to be? Yasher Koach, that's beautiful.
So we are going to be reading R'eih chapter 12, verses 6 through 10. Sorry, okay, you know what? I think we are going to just for a second move this friend.
It shall come here.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Right. Here we go.
Cool. Pretty close.
Yeah.
All things considered. So let's say our Torah blessing, the blessing before the Torah reading. Let's do it together. Our Aliyah. Don't forget that this is an invitation to elevate ourselves spiritually. Whatever that might mean to you, whatever you might need it to mean today, I invite you to use this opportunity to let it bring you up. Ready? Want this?
Yes, thank you.
Let's say the blessing together. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch ata Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. Amen. V'avetem shama olotechem v'zivchechem ve'ed masrotechem ve'ed trumad yedchem ve'nidrechem ve'nidvotechem uvchorot bekarchem betzonechem. Va'achaltem sham lifnei Adonai Elohechem ושמחתם בכל משלח ידכם אתם ובתיכם אשר ברכך אדוני אלוהיך לא תעשון ככל אשר אנחנו עושים פה היום איש כל הישר בעיניו כי לא באתם עד עתה אל המנוחה ואל הנחלה אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך ועברתם את הירדן וישבתם בארץ אשר אדוני אלוהיכם מנחיל אתכם והניח לכם מכל אויביכם מסביב וישבתם בטח.
And let's say our closing blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
And as always, we take a minute when the Torah is out and open in front of us, and we have just spiritually elevated ourselves to share that beauty and spirituality and holiness with those that are in need, as we say the Misha Beirach, our prayer for healing. And so, as always, there are two parts to this prayer, and in between we will read our names that we know of, those in need of healing, and invite you to share your own as well. Misha Beirach.
Don't hide your face from me. Asking for your help, I call to you, please hear my prayers, oh God. If you would answer me as I have called to you, please heal me now. Don't hide your face from me. Let's do that again. Don't hide your face from me. I'm asking for your help. I call to you. Please hear my prayers, oh God. If you would answer me as I have called to you, please heal me now. Don't hide your face from me.
Today we are praying for Zachary Hoffman, David Karner, David Goldenberg, Stuart Myers, Catherine Plus, Jean Silver, Scott Englander, Stacy Hoffman, Corey Franklin, Brian John Miller, Phyllis Schulman, Eric Dellenbach, Becky Mitchell, Jeffrey Karras, Hal Malin, Jim Estaby, James Tepper, Cheryl Lunning, Donald Gross, Christina Clark, Raymond Bell, Douglas Hamilton, Alan Davidson, Sikita Vatuk, Isabel Echeverius, Shanti Hazan, Howard Rosenberg, Deborah Elena Koff, Alex Busnovetsky, Ellie Greenberg, Lori Goldman, Larry Ambrose, Mike Kabuti, Laura Culver, Sylvia Goodman, Jerry Luckton, Cindy Friedland, Josh Hepner, Jared Siegel, Ernie Stone, and Carol Weiner. I invite you to add other names out louder in your heart. If you're watching at home, say those names out loud, hold them in your heart, type them in on Facebook so that we can hear them and hold them with you. We pray for the full and speedy healing of each of our loved ones and those that we don't know. Baruch atah Adonai, Makor HaRefuah. Blessed are you, Adonai, source of all healing.
If you would answer me as I have called to you, please heal me now. Don't hide your face from me. Please, oh please heal me now. Don't hide your face from me.
We rise as we are able, as we dress and return the Torah to the ark. We remain standing for the Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula leotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoye haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, וגורלנו ככל העולם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Be seated as we move into our moment of memory. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands, by letting bodies touch bodies, and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. And so we call into this space and our minds and hearts and memories all those that we have lost in our lives, those that we have lost in the last week, Charles Alexander Murdoch and Cody Southard. Those we've lost in the last 30 days, Marilyn Bolton, Marvin Friedman, Marcia Mendelson Gordon, Donald Quartz, Benny Litvak, David Lustig, Stacy Pepper, and Sherwin Turner. And those that we have lost in our lives in times past, for whom this Shabbat marks as a Yortzeit, the anniversary of their passing. Alex Alexander, Helen Ephraim Alexander, Helen Ellen Bogan Allen, Marvin V. Apple, Hattie S. Balaban, Sadie Rosenthal Bernstein, William Bernstein, Morris H. Block, Rose Brodsky, Dr. Isidore David Bronfin, Frida Ehrlich Brown, Lisa Burns, Bruce Cohen, Frank Cohen, Bella L. Cohn, Jack Dillon, Bertha Ehrlich, Florence G. Emanuel, Hy Fishman, Charles S. Flax, Martin J. Friedman, Jeanette F. Goldstone, Lynn Rel Grego, Julia Gross, Ida Halpern, Joseph Halperin, Alex Hayton, Bernice E. Hayton, Marvin H. Hellerstein, Stephen C. Herman, Judge Isidore Himes, Harry Hindelman, Joseph David Iskow, Pauline Kessler, Albert R. Klein, Jack C. Levy, Ed Levy, Douglas E. Link, Joe Litvak, Arthur Lorber, Bernice Francis Metzger, David Michael, Lillian Winter Michelson, Henry Newman, Daisy G. Ottenheimer, Diana Plotka, Lieutenant Alvin L. Rosenbaum, Gladys Sobel Samuelson, Sally B. Sanders, Max S. Shayer, Isidore J. Shore, Bernard Silverman, Marilyn Bassow Simon, Dr. Sailing Simon, Leo M. Simon, Seymour Simon, Benjamin Stein, Mark Stryker, Edith Stein Tobin, Sidney Lee Wax, Geraldine Robbins Weil, Miriam Gloria Weinstock, Ray Weissenberger, Barbara Walensky, Lillian Winter, Harry Wolgamuth, Janet Wanda Yabrov, and Harvey Zucker. 10 more names from the city of Colleen, for whom this chapel is dedicated. Rudolph Fisher, Sasha Fisher, Hedvika Fischera, Edita Fischerova, Elsa Fischerova, Evgeny Fischerova, Katerina Fischerova, Marta Fischerova, Olga Fischerova, and Sonia Fischerova. And as is our custom to honor those who are in mourning, in addition to the memories of those who we have lost, I invite you to rise as you are able if you are remembering a loved one that you have lost in the last 30 days. And now I invite you to rise as you are able if you are in the first year of mourning the loss of a loved one. And if this Shabbat marks the Yortzeit, or the anniversary of the passing of a loved one, I invite you to rise as you are able. And now we all rise as we can. And we join together in the words of the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkarash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyamechon uvchayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivorach le'olam ule'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemei kudesha, brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved, and let us say, Amen.
And let us say, and let us say, Amen. And let us say, and let us say, Amen. And let us say, and let us say, Amen. And let us say, and let us say, Amen.
Quick announcements. The high holidays are coming. That's most of what's happening at this moment. We are in Elul. You can sit if you want. We are in Elul. We are getting ourselves ready for all of the wonders of Elul and the High Holy Days. And so, first of all, we are doing tent talks for Elul that are no longer in the tent. But we're not changing the name. They were in the tent outside. So Cantor Sachs will be hosting this week's tent talk from her office on Zoom. You can register on our website. For the original registration is still good for tent talks this Tuesday at 7 p.m. We're talking about personal and professional selves.
Sure.
What are you saying? It's not ready? Just kidding. That's funny. If you are a member of Temple, you can register for the High Holidays. That window is open right now. If you need help doing that, please give us a call. We're super happy to help you make sure that you can get through. You can do it online on our website, but if you need a helping hand because the website is new, please just call us. We have got your back. High Holiday information is going to keep coming out. My guess is that it might keep changing as we are navigating everything, but we're monitoring all the stuff, and we'll keep you posted as soon as we know what's going on. You know what's going on, we promise. What else? I think that's mostly it.
That's mostly it.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. And so, with that, what are we going to sing?
We are going to conclude with words of return, which is very appropriate. Actually, we hope and pray that this week we will be, maybe, hopefully, God willing, installing chairs into our sanctuary. So that will hopefully be a joyous return. And I mention that because if you have not yet registered for Slichut on our website, that is the very beginning of our High Holy Day season. And that is going to be the first evening that we will actually have people in the sanctuary with our new carpet and our new chairs and our new podium. So please, Saturday night, 8 o'clock, Saturday, August 27th, come and return with us. We return, we return, we return, return again. We return, we return, we return, return.
Yehi ratzon milfanecha, may it be your will, God, that as we walk through the days of Elul, we can examine ourselves from the point of view of the individual, from the point of view of the collective, and that we figure out how to walk straight paths for all of us to do what's right for each of us individually and collectively, and perhaps that on that walk we will have the ability to find truth, the truth that we know deep inside. And so we ask your blessing, God. Tatzidenu l'shalom, help those steps be steps of peace. Tadrichenu l'shalom, help our paths be paths of peace. And we say together, Amen. And Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Everybody wave at the camera, say Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.